Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the studio. We appreciate you being with us. And as always, we're going to start out your week with some tips from TTO. We have Megan Wallander, of course, always joining us here from the tax office. Megan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
Doing good, doing good. We are facing so many different things every week, every day. Within our society, within our culture, from the political to the business to the personal, just social issues and things like that. I think sometimes it can be very, 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 very overwhelming just to look at business and go, what are we doing? How do we do this? Because everything is folding into each other, as it always has, but we're folding into these things at a very high rate, and information is coming so quickly. We've had this discussion for the last month of how information is coming, but is it really information that you can decipher? How much is intact? What are you gleaning from it? How do you make an informed decision, right?
Yes, and like you said, it can be very overwhelming, and it's business and politics tend to intertwine with each other. Mm-hmm. Ever so often, whatnot. But now more than ever, we're seeing it intertwine, and it can be very overwhelming, especially for small businesses at this time.
We're going to talk a little bit today, folks, about the payroll deferment or deferral, payroll deferral,
yes,
executive order. What does that mean? What does that? Have you looked? Have you read? What's coming? I mean, tomorrow is September 1st, and
yes.
This is what we're dealing with because today is Monday, August 31st. That's what we're doing this on, and I was reading this article from Forbes magazine about the payroll deferment, what they had to say. And it says the deferral, which would be in effect between September and December of 2020, would allow employers to refrain from withholding a Social Security tax from employee paychecks. Employees earning about $100,000 or less per year would see an increase to each paycheck during the deferral period. Typically, employees and employers each pay half of the total 12.4% Social Security tax due for each worker. But under the executive order, employers would refrain from withholding the 6.2% from employees' Social Security, but would still contribute their own portion for each worker. So, Meg.
Yes.
What are we doing here? And that's right out of Forbes, Forbes magazine.
Yes, and that actually, a lot of that wording came from the actual executive order that came from President Trump a couple of weeks ago. So they are spot on. That is exactly what the executive order said. However, we're having a tough time finding out exactly all the details, because an executive order says, okay, this is what I am directing this division to do or this division to do. However, there's not any black and white coming down the pipeline from the the Treasury Department yet. So hopefully, we are hoping to see something in fine print that says, I think the biggest question for employers right now that I'm hearing is, well, is it elective, or does the employee have to defer that Social Security? Because I know a lot of employees that are not going to want to do that because they're not at a point where they have to defer that. They need that extra money, whatnot, which thankfully, but then there are employees out there that, that would really help us at the time. And they're hoping from September 1st, I did read in Forbes last week that from September 1st to the end of the year, that's going to average about $1,200 on an average worker in America, which is a good chunk of change, which, and this time is going to be very nice. However, we just don't know if the employer is going to have the choice whether or not to, and what does that look like for the employee? What does that conversation look like?
Right. I mean, and that can be your grocery bill for the next 3 months, right?
Absolutely.
Or at least a big chunk of it, depending
Big
upon,
chunk of it.
kids or whatever you're doing. So, I mean, I think that is real. But then the other part of that, when you get into that, 2021 side, what's the process of paying that back? How is that
Get
happening?
back.
Has that been set in stone? And we know that President Trump has said that when, whatever you want to choose, he gets reelected on November 3rd, he would work to make that tax cut permanent and make that deferral permanent, where you wouldn't have to pay it back, correct?
It would be forgiven. Yes, it
Yeah.
would be forgiven. So, and depending on how long the deferral goes, if they extend it, because there's extension dates everywhere. So, making sure that you pay attention to those dates as well. And we'll do our best to keep you guys updated as much as possible. But as of right now, December 31st. So again, in 2021, I did read that, and this is, again, there's not a lot of black print, fine print, whatever you want to call it. But it'll be a 2-year payback for that deferral for the employee if they choose to defer their Social Security over this next 5 or 6 months. And so, yeah.
Well, here, how much will a person, this says here in that Forbes article, it depends on your income, $100,000 or less annually, paycheck. If you make $50,000 per year before taxes, you'll see an extra $258 per month distributed across your paychecks. Over the 4-month holiday, you'd receive an extra $1,032. And I think that's really where if you're really thinking about people looking at this seriously, I think in that 50,000 and under range, that would be a big benefit. You're talking $258 a month.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change right now, for sure.
Payment,
well, anytime, I don't,
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good chunk of change. I would never turn it down.
And again, will I have to pay this back? They're asking the same question, and they said that's unclear.
That is unclear. Yes. So, like you just stated, Trump will work to get that forgiven. And then depending, like I said, with the extensions, and they might extend that into 2021, depending on how the economy is looking and how things progress over the next 5 months. We're hoping that it does not extend any farther than it has to, and we can just get back up and running. However, that 2021 will be the deciding factor on, if it does get forgiven or not. So I think the biggest question for employers is, do they have to do it? Is it mandatory? Is it something that's going to be just automatic? I know Greg and I have been talking about, software, and our software is being updated. Because back in March, there was a deferral for companies to not pay their portion of their Social Security tax. We had a lot of our clients, they did not take advantage of that. They didn't feel they need to, which is completely up to them, because that will not be forgiven from what our understanding is. So, it could go either way.
So, and when you're talking about these things, I know you guys are discussing this a lot, what's coming up, what's happening, how you're dealing with your payroll clients and whatnot. So, and I know we're not talking about advice in the sense of you do this, you do that, but we're talking about
absolutely not.
What's happening, what we see here, what you guys are seeing coming down the pipe. And really it boils down to the individual. Talking to their employer, making that decision and discussing with them, because we really don't know if the government is actually making this mandatory for employers to do this, correct?
Yes, we do not know that. I think that's the $1 million question right now. And I'm going to be doing a lot of digging today to see if something has come down the pipeline, since it does start tomorrow. That's when the deferral will, that the executive order did take place.
Right.
And so I'm going to do some digging over the next, couple of hours throughout the day and see if I can find any concrete understanding of what's actually going to be mandatory, or if it's not going to be mandatory.
Because, and just to your point here, can I choose not to participate? Watch for guidance from your employer. And this is out of the Forbes article I was referencing here. And I mean, this is the stuff we've been looking at. Megan's been looking, she's been researching, for the last couple of weeks, because, payroll clients, you have to be able to question.
It's the topic of conversation over I would say at least the last 6 months. This is a highly talked conversation between Greg and I. Hey, did you see anything new? Have you seen an update on this? So,
and they say right here, watch for guidance from your employer about whether or not your company will participate in the payroll tax holiday. Your employer may choose to continue withholding during a temporary payroll tax holiday, but if your employer pauses withholding, you probably will not be able to ask your employer to hold on to that extra cash. That's what they're saying. But
that's what Forbes is saying. And they're pretty reputable.
But that's still probably what is going on. See this, and I mean, there's got to be some kind of answers to these questions.
They're out there. You just have to do a little bit of digging. And with that statement that Forbes just came out. So, and I think that's a good question to ask. And
this was August 13th. When they wrote this article, but I haven't seen anything that's been updated since, because there hasn't been
any updating. Yes, and I've read that article, and I have MSN did an article on that, and then Investopedia did an article on the executive order and whatnot. So there's a lot of information out there with speculation, but from what we're seeing, we're not seeing any concrete of okay. And the way that particular article read was it's going to be on the employer to decide if they're going to stop the withholding, which adds, I think, a new little element. So I made a note of that I'm going to, because I hadn't read that. I hadn't read that yet.
And I think that's a huge thought process right there. So today, if you're an employee and you're really, if you're an employer, I think it would behoove you to really talk to your staff, take that time to sit down with your staff members and find out what's going on, right?
Just don't jump into it.
And, if you're a small micro business, you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 employees. I think the weight ratio, the benefit ratio, I think it's always about talking to your staff, sitting down with them and having that honest conversation. Where are you at? I mean, if we're going to really take that approach to an employee relationship, and we want our employees to be informed and have that relationship that is open in dialogue, I think that conversation needs to be had, because, and evidently looks like either do it across the board or you don't do it at all.
Right. There's no in between. I'm going to, get with Greg on this one, but can half your employees do it, or all of them can do it, or, that's a little bit gray area. So I'm definitely going to do some checking in on that.
and here's the thing, folks, we're going to be talking about this today. And I'm sure that's somebody calling in right now going, what do I do?
I don't doubt it, Sam. I will definitely give them a call back.
But one of the things that we will do is the resource page on TTO's website. You can go to their website at thetaxoffice.com and go to their resource page. We're going to update information there. We'll probably throw out a little quick update maybe tomorrow, video wise, to put out just to see if anything really of consequence changes. I mean, we want to keep people informed, but we'll do something that I believe will, because tomorrow's September 1st and people got to be informed of what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got, I've got, three or four new, what's the word I'm looking for? Contacts for our resource page that will be putting up there on the website for you to be able to click on, go, and get that information and collect as much information as you can. It can be overwhelming, but take a breath, click on it, read, and don't make any rash decisions.
So, folks, we hope this has been helpful. I mean, we're trying to give as much information as we can, what we know, what we've seen. And I know Greg and Megan, they've been on top of this. They've been reading, looking. If you're looking for somebody who's going to help take care of you as far as your small business, if you've got a small payroll, I know there's big companies out there and whatnot, but personal service, people that you can talk to, people that'll help you make these decisions. This is what local business is about, and a community of business working together. So Megan,
Absolutely.
we appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
And again, folks, resource page, thetaxoffice.com. Go to the resource page there. You find it on the website. We'll update that here real soon. And so hopefully, Meg, we'll have concrete answers and know exactly.
Yes, that would be great. And we can see you tomorrow, and we can get some more information.
and folks, be looking too, because we may just throw something up quickly live on Facebook in the morning, just to
Absolutely
give a heads up. I think it would be good. So till next time, remember, they're more than just a tax office. And everybody have a great day in the Lord. We'll see you.
Absolutely. Bye.